What's up guys, Intellitech Studios here, and today we're going to be doing the full review of the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus. Now this review in some ways will also apply to the Galaxy Note 10, and this review mainly is to see how well this phone holds up in 2022 and whether or not this is still worth buying as a budget note option, but not super budget note option, if you know what I mean. Now, just as a note for those watching this video, I am recording the video portion of this review on the Apple iPhone 12, and I will be doing the opposite respectively when I review that phone as well. So let me know how the video quality looks, and this will function as the video review of the iPhone 12 in terms of the camera quality while we're reviewing the actual device of the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. So hope that's not confusing the way that I explain that, but hopefully it'll make sense. But anyways, this is the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. This is the first phone in Samsung's lineup to have many of the modern design trends that we see today. So if you're worried about your phone looking old and outdated when you show it to all of your friends, if you're one of those types of people, the Note 10 Plus, in my eyes, won't let you down. You not only have the beautiful Aura Glow color option, which is still stunning to this day, you also have the options of blue, white, in case of both of the units, and in the case of the Plus, blue, and in the case of the non-Plus, red and pink. Unfortunately, Samsung decided to segregate the color options to certain sizes of this device, so unfortunately, I do not have the option of buying a blue, smaller Note 10 in 5G, which is also frustrating. I'll touch on that real quick. If you want 5G, this is the cheapest Note that you can get 5G in, or it's at least the oldest Note that you can get 5G in. But here in the States, if you're buying a local unit, you can only get 5G, to my knowledge, in the Plus model, which is unfortunate. So if you're like me and you like smaller phones, you like phones that are still big, but not too small in terms of actual size, here's my Note 7. It's about the same size as the Note 10. You can see it's a little bit of a smaller device. The Note 10 would look just like this, but boxier. Then, unfortunately, you don't have that option. So if you want 5G, you're going to have to fork out the money for the Plus. Now, obviously, Samsung wants you to do that anyways because the Note 20 Ultra and the new S22 Ultra don't come in smaller design variants. The Note 20 does, but it's not really the same phone. It's really weird. But in the case of the Note 10, you do have those two size options. The smaller Note 10 has a 6.3-inch display, and this bigger Note 10 Plus has a 6.8-inch display, and they're able to achieve that large of a screen because it goes edge to edge. This is the first Samsung phone with the hole punch display, as many people call it, or as Samsung calls it, the Infinity O display. So like I was mentioning earlier, if you want a phone that still looks perfectly modern, but you want to save a good chunk of change, as opposed to getting the S22 Ultra, the Note 10 Plus is still a great choice. The screen looks just as good as it does on the S22 Ultra, save for a little bit of brightness, and for the fact that the Note 10 does not have any option in any SKU for a higher refresh rate display. If you want a high refresh rate display, you're going to have to spring for the Note 20 Ultra as an upgrade, but you also, if you do that, you won't get Quad HD in that refresh rate. So the only way to get the 1440p resolution of this screen, in addition to the higher refresh rate, you're going to have to buy the newest, as of the making of this video, S22 Ultra. But in my opinion, that isn't a very good reason to upgrade or to not consider the Note 10 Plus, because if all of your other screens aren't also a high refresh rate, then switching from your phone to your computer and to your TV and etc. is going to be a very jarring experience, and for me personally, that makes the benefits of the high refresh rate kind of superfluous. But again, your mileage may vary, and you may absolutely love the high refresh rate. So if that's something you're used to, or if that's something you're wanting, the Note 10 Plus is going to let you down a little bit in that regard. But other than that, you still have a great display. You still have Quad HD. You still have the huge display. If you get the smaller Note 10, you're limited to 1080p. So that is kind of unfortunate and really stupid, but you do have that choice. One other limiting factor of the standard Note 10 is that you don't have an SD card slot, whereas here on the Note 10 Plus, you do have an SD card slot, which is great because the newest Note 20 Ultra does not, and the smaller Note 20 also or did I say Note 20 Ultra? I meant the S22 Ultra. The new S22 Ultra does not have an SD card slot, although you do have higher storage tiers. In the case of the Note 10 Plus, you do have a 256 gig variant and a 512 gig variant. This particular unit is the 512 gig, so you could theoretically put a 512 gig SD card in here and get a terabyte of storage. They do make terabyte SD cards now, but I'm not sure they'll work in here, but I'm pretty sure they will. I see no reason why they wouldn't. So you might be able to even put a terabyte SD card in here and have it over a terabyte of storage no matter what SKU you get. So that is nice. You do have the option to put an SD card in here and expand the storage. One other feature you get that you also get on the Note 20, but you don't get on the S22 Ultra is MST, which is ridiculous that you're giving up that feature on such an expensive phone, referring to the S22 Ultra. So if you have this phone and you're debating on getting the S22 Ultra and you constantly use Samsung Pay on your phone to pay at card readers that are not NFC, which in English, it means that if you use Samsung Pay at places that don't work with Apple Pay or Google Pay, which is the entire reason you're probably using Samsung Pay, it will not work on the S22 Ultra. But on this Note 10 Plus, it will. Or at least it will like 90% of the time. Not all card readers will accept MST, and I have a feeling that's probably why Samsung got rid of that feature. But it was a big reason why a lot of people use Samsung Pay, because with Samsung Pay and with the MST, the fact is that it works at more terminals that Apple and Google Pay do not. And if you add the new version of Samsung Pay with the S22 Ultra, Samsung Pay is added to that as well. So if you like the idea of being able to use Samsung Pay to pay at any terminal you go to, or at least many more than the updated ones that support NFC, if you live in an area where you don't have NFC terminals, where none of your local stores have that update and have updated terminals, then you're going to love using Samsung Pay on the Note 10 Plus, and you're not going to love it on the S22 Ultra or any non-Samsung device. So that is one thing that's frustrating. If you're upgrading to a new phone from even something as old as a Note 5, you're going to lose that, because MST is on the Note 5 and it's also on the Note 10 and 10 Plus, but not the newest S22 Ultra. So that is one reason why you might want to stick with an older Note like the Note 10 Plus. And even if you do that, you still have a great display and a good design. Now, as far as looking around on the rest of the design, on the bottom, you have your USB Type-C port. So this does have USB Type-C, and there is no headphone jack. This is the first Samsung Note to not include a headphone jack. Why Samsung did that, I will never know, because the S10 had it. But obviously, that's been the trend ever since. So if for some reason you enjoy not having a headphone jack on your phone, the Note 10 Plus is still within your consideration. Now, if you have something like a Note 9, and you loved your Note 9, you loved having the headphone jack, then you might want to think twice about upgrading. Although the good news is that headphone adapters are really cheap. For my Note 10 Plus, I personally use the headphone adapter that came with my Google Pixel 3, and it does work just fine. So it doesn't have to be a Samsung adapter, but your mileage may vary as far as which ones work. You can also get USB Type-C headphones, and they do work. And since you have wireless charging, you could still charge while listening to headphones, even while the port is used. Kind of annoying, but at least you can make it work. So, no headphone jack on this. Very annoying, but it is what it is. Right on the bottom, you also have your speaker, which is doubled by the earpiece speaker. Although, one thing that's frustrating about this when compared, again, to the Note 9 is that the speakers on this sound worse than the Note 9, which doesn't make any sense to me, but I'll demonstrate that real quick. So, for whatever reason, if I listen to music on the Note 10 Plus, it sounds great. It sounds just as good as it does on the Note 9, if not better. But it's mainly when I watch something that has vocals. So if someone's talking in a video, like this video right now, if I was watching this video that you're watching right now on this phone, when you turn the volume up, even the slightest bit, I don't even mean all the way, but if you turn up the slightest bit, the speakers sound really tinny. And because of this speaker hole up in the top, which is not an IR blaster, I'll talk about that in a bit, because there's no earpiece right here that's actually on here, unlike the Note 20, And because the speaker comes out of this little hole right here, it goes through this chamber in the middle of the phone and it vibrates the phone really badly. So if I watch this video, let me go over to where there's vocals. In your family, this brush will get tangled in hair. So you can see, but it's not the worst that I've seen. When the volume is a relatively low volume, you can see right now, it's at, it's at like 45-50%. It sounds okay. It doesn't really rattle too much, but if I turn the volume up to 75%, but you want to make sure that you're pulling the machine back and not allowing it to tilt forward, as if the machine... I don't know if you can hear that, but the sound distorts a little bit, and when you're holding it, you can feel the sound going through the back of the phone, and the whole thing vibrates, and it just makes it feel cheap, and I don't really like that feeling. And if I turn it all the way up, well, again, you're listening to vocals, which is something you probably want to do because these speakers get nice and loud. Until it's forward, it could burn the brush into your carpet and cause damage. Listen to that. Or suck up something and potentially break the belt. If you smell a rubber burning smell coming from this area of the machine. So if you listen to it, not only does it distort the audio, but when you set it on a flat surface, you end up making the whole thing rattle. And it's not as bad as a lot of reviewers said it was, but it is still very annoying. And if you're the kind of person that likes to listen to your music or to your vocals, especially if you listen to podcasts at full volume on your speakers in particular, you're not gonna like this. At least I don't think so, because I do not like this thing rattling around, and it just doesn't feel good. And it just doesn't seem like a good trade-off, because what do we get in return for that? Well, sure, the screen goes all the way up to the edges, but then we have the hole punch, which is the same on a lot of the newer phones. Now, the good news is that on the newer phones, this hole punch is a little bit smaller, but if you're watching a video where this part isn't dark, then it sticks out like a sore thumb. I would have much rather that Samsung just did what they do on like some of the A series units, where they just turn this into a little teardrop notch. I actually would have preferred that, because that's at least easier to ignore than this, because you have that little sliver of content that's still moving around this camera, and it's very distracting. It's just, in my opinion, it's just as distracting as if you were watching it on a phone with a cracked screen or with a hair on the screen or something like that. It just doesn't look good. So in my case, here's one of my videos on my main channel, and if you look, I'll turn the volume down because we're focusing on the video right now, like let's not, obviously if we stare at it just like that, you're gonna notice it, but like if I'm watching this on a table or something like that, like my eyes immediately go to this, and you might be, and see right there where the vacuum kind of like crossed over it, like you can't not notice that. And I don't know, this will obviously depend on your personal preference, but for me, this is irritating, and I do not like this. Now, if you're watching 16:9 content, and it's not zoomed in, like in this case, then it's fine. So, if you're the kind of person that likes to zoom in, then this might bother you. But if you're the kind of person where you mostly only watch 16:9 content, and it's going to be zoomed out like this anyways, then it might not bother you. It still looks a little funny to me because I can see that, but to me that doesn't look that much different than if I was on the Note 9, and let me pull up a YouTube video on here, and we can see on here, it doesn't look that much different. So if let's see if I turn the volume down. So if I'm watching a video like this on the Note 9, then if I'm in 16:9 mode specifically, because obviously that's what we're comparing, then it looks about the same. But when this is zoomed in all the way and you're watching a video, I don't know why it's not playing. Oh, it is. Okay, it's just flossy, so there's nothing happening. So if you're watching a video like this, and it's zoomed all the way in, this looks good. Like, this looks really good on the Note 9. You still have some bezels on the side to actually hold the phone. I mean, it's not as much as an older Note. Like, if you have a Note 7 and you're watching a video on this, here, I'll demonstrate this as well, because again, there is a difference here. So let's say you're watching, okay, let's not turn that off. So say you're watching, now this is 4:3, so it's not the best example, but I can zoom in and you can show that. So, if you're watching something like this on an older Samsung phone, you have even more bezel to hold because you've got this bezel right here that you can easily hold. Now, of course, in the case of the Note 7, this isn't an actual earpiece speaker, so you only have the bottom, but still, you have a lot more to hold without it getting in the way, and that's even without having a case. So, like, over time, it just feels like these Samsung phones have gotten even worse at being able to handle it and it having a good experience in terms of the total experience. Now with the Note 9, it was the peak because you had the great, beautiful display. It's perfectly bright. You've got a big battery to power it for a while, and you have stereo speakers with the earpiece. On the Note 10, yes, while the screen in some ways is better, it's also worse in others because of that notch or because of that hole punch, and the audio quality takes a very big hit just from a practical sense. Yes, on paper it's better. In some ways it's maybe a little bit better, but this was not worth removing the headphone jack for, in my opinion, because this just makes it the audio experience not that good, and it makes me want to plug in headphones. And if I'm gonna plug in headphones anyways, well, I'd rather have a headphone jack, So, not a fan of that. Now, I know I ranted about the speakers for a little bit, maybe more than some people would like, but that's the truth. Like, I don't like the speakers on this. I've been using this phone for the past month, and I just couldn't get used to the speakers. Now, again, if I'm listening to them at a normal volume, I can deal with it. It sounds fine. But if I'm listening to music in the shower, for example, which is something that I personally like to do because the phone is water resistant, it's a great experience. Except the fact that it just completely ruins it because then the whole sound gets distorted. Even in the case of music, the actual instruments sound really good. Like, love it. Drums sound good, bass sounds good, guitar sounds good, cello sounds good, everything sounds good. But and I guess the bass sounds good too, because I know some people ask about bass. I didn't really notice anything with the bass, good or bad, but I'm not an audiophile, so I'm not a very bass-heavy person, not a fan of that, so I can't really comment on that. But this little speaker, the vocals will just sound really bad. And I've heard this complaint from other people about the Note 10 Plus too, so I know it's not my unit. It's just something you're going to have to deal with. And I feel that was worth giving a good mention because a lot of people buy these phones, especially something with a big screen like this, to watch their movies on. Because a lot of people nowadays, they don't have laptops. A lot of people nowadays, you can do all of your work from your phone. And a lot of people will utilize that. They might not even have a very good TV or a very good laptop or a tablet at all. So you want the experience on your phone to be really good because you're going to be probably using this for several years on end, and you want to enjoy it, especially if you're going to be dropping, whether it was $1,100, $1,200, or even now upwards of anywhere from $250 to $400, depending on where you get this. Then maybe $200, depending on where you find it. Then that's still a good amount of money. So you want to make sure that experience is good. So definitely keep track of that, and you want to make sure that that is to your liking. So be cautious of that. If you do pick up one of these, watch a ton of movies on it, watch a ton of podcasts on it, watch my videos if you want, because I do a lot of talking in my videos, as you can tell. Watch this video on this phone, let me know how it sounds. So there is that. So as far as that whole movie watching experience, it's good. Now, since I kind of touched on a little bit of this stuff down here, we'll go over the rest of the physical overview. I did this a little bit out of order than I meant to, but it is midnight, so I'm gonna be a little bit weird. So right here we have nothing on the right side of the device, and I'm referring to the right side when you're looking at the front screen. So the right side of the device has no buttons on it, and the left side has the Bixby button and the volume up and down button. Now, that's kind of weird. There's no power button on this. Well, the good news is that you can remap the power button to be the Bixby, or well, you can do that, but you can also do it the other way around, which is what I was trying to say. So I have this set to where double tapping it opens the camera like it should. Love that shortcut. And I have it where holding it opens up the power menu. And you can see when you open up the power menu, you have side key settings right here. and you can change right here what the double press is. In my opinion, that should be quick launch camera, but you can also set it to open up an app, so it is programmable. Love that. So you're not forced to open Bixby anymore. This is the newest software. So that's really good, and you can press and hold for the power off menu or wake Bixby. Obviously change that to the power off menu. That's really good. Although one thing that's kind of annoying is that Samsung did add a power button to the software, which I guess is nice. I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt anything, but to me, it just kind of makes this a little bit more cluttered. I would have rather them just made this the power button in the first place, so that way they didn't have to do this. And the funny thing is that even on phones that don't have this, they've since added the power button as well. So the Note 9 did not have the power icon in the top corner when it originally came out on Android Oreo, but now on Android 10, you do have that option. So my Note 10 Plus is the latest update with Android 11. I actually have the option on right now where it auto picks really nice wallpapers, so that looks really nice. I do love that. And we can see right here we have the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor right underneath the glass. So since we're already talking about the display and the buttons and all that, let's get to the fingerprint unlock button. It's not really a button, it's more of a pad that's underneath the glass, but that is really nice. Now, it can be a little bit slow. It's not as fast as it is on the Note 9, because the Note 9 is an actual proper fingerprint sensor, so this isn't quite as fast. But is it more convenient? In some ways, yes. Because one thing about these older fingerprint sensors from Samsung is that whether they're on the back or whether they're on the front, these fingerprint sensors have like a plastic coating, and in case of these older ones, it's actually just plastic. So these will get scuffed up after a while. I've seen the paint rip off on the Note 9. I've seen the covering get scratched off on the Note 7 and S7 Edge and all that, Note 5. So these fingerprint sensors, while they do work better than this one, and they are faster than this one, they are a lot more prone to wear. So a lot of times, if you're really rough, especially if you have Note 9, you're not using a case, so this gets scratched up, or if you had a Note 5 or Note 7 and you have long fingernails, so you're scratching it every time you're going to unlock it, then it can look ugly after a while. So on the Note 10 Plus, since it is on the screen and it's protected by the glass, much like they did with the Flash, it's a lot more protected. So from an aesthetic purposes, it is better. It also just looks cooler because fingerprint sensor. But while it does work and it is nice, again, it is a little bit slower. I've seen a lot of times these fingerprint sensors will stop working if you break the screen. So if you've got butterfingers and you're worried about breaking your screen, if you break the screen, this fingerprint sensor is probably going to stop working. I've seen that happen a lot. So if you break your screen, your fingerprint sensor is going to stop working, because if there's glass over it that's cracked, it's not going to work anymore. You're going to have to put in your PIN, your pattern, or passcode, whatever you end up doing. So that's a little annoying. Now, the good news is that you do have face unlock. It does work very well. You see, boom, it's extremely quick. Like, it's super quick. Now, that's great and all. The face unlock is good. So if you, for whatever reason, can't use the fingerprint sensor, you do have face unlock, which is great. I love that. But you know what it doesn't have? An iris scanner. Note 7 had an iris scanner. So not only did you have the front fingerprint sensor, you also had an iris scanner. Now, in the case of the old Note 7, you have to swipe up, and then, okay, it looks like I don't have it turned on, but let's look at the Note 9. On the Note 9, you have the intelligent scan. So it defaults to face unlock, but you still have the option for the iris scanner. The Note 9 did this the best. I don't know why I'm even mentioning 7. The Note 9 did this the best, because not only do you have the quick face unlock from this, it's just as quick, but you also have the iris scanner. Now, of course, nowadays that's kind of a moot point, but think about this a year ago when everyone was wearing masks and Face ID and Face Unlock wasn't working because you had your mask on, it was covering damn near 75% of your face. Well, the Note 9 didn't let you down, because if it didn't immediately snap open with the Face Unlock, it would grab your irises with the iris scanner, and the iris sensor works perfectly if you have a mask on or if you have something covering your face. So the intelligent scan that the Note 9 has was the best combination of both worlds. They removed the iris scanner from the Note 10 Plus, and I don't like that. Don't like that one bit. Why would they remove features on this phone? That doesn't make any sense. So not only do you lose your headphone jack, not only do you lose speaker quality, you lose your iris scanner. And one thing you don't get, even though this little hole tricked me when I saw the leaks back in 2019, because what does this look like? Now, if you're familiar with the older Galaxy Notes, what does that look like? It looks like an IR blaster. But this does not have an IR blaster. Now, I was hoping when I saw the leaks for this phone that, oh no, they dropped the headphone jack, they dropped the iris scanner, sorry if I'm kicking the tripod, but maybe they gave us back the iris scanner. So maybe that'll make up for it, because, you know, we get your TV remote functionality back. Nope, no iris scanner. So that fools you. Don't think that's an iris scanner, that's just a hole over the top speaker, and that's the entire reason why this thing buzzes when it's loud. Which is ridiculous, because look at this. Now, this is an older phone than this, but look at this. You've got an IR blaster, you've still got expandable memory, and you have a premium build and a removable battery. Look at this. You've got a removable battery, just like old times. The Samsung, do you remember when you had that? When you had all of those features in a phone and an Edge display? Well, a lot of us do, and the LG V20 has it. Now, I know Samsung's never going to watch this video, but Samsung, you remember this thing? I mean, you want to forget it, but you won't. Imagine how much easier the recall on this would have been if you could have just sent people new batteries and been done with it. You would have saved a lot of money. But Samsung still didn't do that with the Note 10 Plus. But the good news is that even though the battery isn't easily removable, just like the Note 9, the battery life is fantastic. So this particular Note 10 Plus has a 4,300 milliamp hour battery, which is 300 milliamps more than the Note 9. So they took away some stuff, but at least they gave us a bigger battery. And if you get the smaller Note 10 Plus, which is the same size as the Note 7, it has the same battery size as the Note 7, a 3,500 milliamp hour battery. So that's also the same size as the S9 Plus, S8 Plus, all that stuff. So you get about the same size phone with the same size battery. Okay, so there's not really an upgrade in terms of battery on the normal Note 10, other than the fact that it doesn't explode. So, but again, the S9 Plus could do that just fine. So I don't know why the smaller Note 10 got that small of a battery. I feel like they could have easily put a 3800 in there, but this is Samsung after all. But if you get the 10 Plus, now again, I can't comment on the normal Note 10 because I don't have one, but talking about the Note 10 Plus specifically, battery life is killer. I made it all day, never had any problems. Now this doesn't work with my carrier, so I wasn't able to test data, but I could still test phone calls through Messenger and a lot of those other things, and phone call quality was just fine. It felt a little funky because of the way the earpiece is, but phone calls on this are great, and as you'd expect. So a phone works as a phone. Shocker, right? So battery life is just as good as my Note 9, maybe even a little bit better, but they were very close. It's hard to say that it wasn't just a placebo effect in terms of the actual battery life. I don't remember my screen on time, if I'm being honest. I think I forgot to measure it. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter anyways, because that can massively vary depending on what you're using and what your brightness is at. So just in my experience with a battery at, let me see what the health is, because I do have AccuBattery on here to show the health. So my battery health is at 90%. So my estimated capacity is 3742. So if you have a Note 10 Plus with the battery at about this level of capacity, expect to get all day battery life, just like I did. So that is one thing to keep in mind anytime you're buying a new device. The second you buy a new device, in my opinion, slap AccuBattery on it before you start using it and set it up, so that way you can monitor your battery and see what the actual capacity is. Not sponsored, I did pay for this app myself. I've just really loved it. I've been using it on all of my phones. It's a good little tool right there to make sure your battery isn't affected, because when you're buying a secondhand device, the battery could be in any number of conditions, especially as time goes on. Now the good news is, just like every Galaxy phone, it's very easy to pry, well, it's not easy. Oh, cats. It's not easy to pry up the back per se, because there is waterproofing adhesive, so you'll probably break the back pulling it off, but you can heat up the back and replace the battery fairly easily, so that is very nice. Now, obviously, if you do that, you're going to lose your waterproofing, but it is there. And speaking of waterproofing, this phone is IP68 dust and water resistant. Of course, Galaxy Notes have been like that for quite a while, but it's always a nice feature to have. And the nice thing is that you do have that protection, although keep in mind, if you're buying a secondhand device, especially one that's cracked or has a lot of dents on the frame, be very careful because the waterproofing seals do deteriorate after a while. So when you're buying any used device, I would not trust it to water, and that's even if the device hasn't been opened. I still wouldn't trust it, but it's good to have that protection just in case. So don't intentionally submerge your phone, but it should hopefully take care of you if you're, listening to music in the shower and your phone falls in the shower, or if you're out in the rain and you get wet, or you're doing dishes and it falls in. That should be good. Someone in a motorcycle just drove by. So, yeah. Now, one thing I will mention about the waterproofing is that the S Pen is also IP68 certified. Again, it's been that way for a while. So, if your phone is wet, you can still write and use your pen to manipulate your screen underwater. Now, a lot of people will be like, why is that useful? That doesn't seem very useful. But I think it's very useful because if your phone's wet, you can still use it. So if you are doing something important and you need to use your phone, you can still do it with the pen, even if it doesn't respond to your fingers while it's wet. So that's definitely a great thing. And the S Pen on the Note 10 Plus is fantastic. We'll get to that next. So the S Pen is really good. The build quality is much better than it is on the older Notes. If we compare the S Pen to the Note 9, we can see we still have Bluetooth functionalities. The pen is a little bit smaller, but they actually got rid of that extra little bit with the Samsung branding, which is really nice because these pens are known for splitting right here where this is. So since Samsung made this a long unibody, then that makes it a lot more durable, especially on the Note 5s. These pens used to break all the time, and that was always a problem with these. The pens would always break right here. The tips would break off. This section would break off. It was always really frustrating. So it's nice to know that Samsung finally addressed that with the Note 10 Plus. And the pen is built a lot better. It feels a lot more sturdy. The tip is very solid on here, whereas on the Note 9, a lot of these tips were very wiggly. If you can see that. The tip is very wiggly. A lot of times when people will go to pull these out at an angle, sometimes they break off. And when you look at the Note 8 and Note 7 S Pens, it's the same way too. So if you look at the S Pen on this, you can see again, this one, actually this one's not too bad. One of my other Note 7 pens has this very loose, and these will also break off very easily. Now, screen off memo has been a thing for quite a while, as you can see, and the ability to pin to your always on display has also been a thing for a while, but all of that is what is available here on the Note 10 Plus as well. And you can see I almost shoved it in backwards. They fixed that feature from the Note 5. It's no longer a problem, and it's been like that for a while, so you can't stick your pen in backwards if you have that problem. Now, right up here where your always on display is, you actually have 5 colors. 5 colors. So that's very nice. I love the multicolored options. It'd be kind of awesome if we had like an actual RGB color picker to pick any color you wanted, but I understand why they didn't want to do that, because then someone changes it to black and then they can't read it. So it's understandable why they do that. Of course, blue is always my favorite, so we'll go blue. And then we can also change the size right up here. I always change it to the biggest. We have the eraser button. We have the option to pin to our always on display and to save it. And if you write something down and put the pen back in, it automatically saves it as well. So if I want to write down something like Galaxy Note 10 Plus, I can do that. And I can also pin it to my always on display. See right there, pinned to always on display. So I can pin that right there. And of course I can minimize it. Sorry, I was missing the word there. I can minimize it right there by double tapping it. I can open it back up, and I can trash it right from here. So that's very simple to do. And on the topic of the always on display, it's of course epic, just like it always has been. So always on display is really good too. Love that. This has fast wireless charging, and you can even charge it up to 45 watts. I don't have one of those charger bricks, so I can't comment on that. But you do have faster charging, just like on the newer Notes. So you don't have to deal with just the standard basic fast charging that these old Notes come with. You actually do get increased increased wireless and wired charging speeds. So if you're the kind of person where you want the fastest way to charge your phone possible, the Note 10 Plus is still a great option and still has perfectly modern fast charging techniques. Now, in my opinion, fast charging was perfectly fine on these phones too, because do you really want charging that's faster than 1% every minute? Because, you know, that's 100% in 2 hours. But if you want faster charging, you do have the option to get the brick that goes with it. Now, if you buy one secondhand, it might not come with that brick, so you might have to buy it separately, but you can buy it. I'll link that brick in the description if I can find it. So that works really good. You have that option, and I love the wireless charging that all these Galaxies have had. Put it on a nice wireless charger and put it on your bedside table, put it on your desk, put it all over the house. I got wireless chargers all over my house, so that way anytime friends come over with a modern iPhone or Galaxy, they can pop their phone down and use wireless charging. Even if they have something else, as long as it has wireless charging, they can pop their phone down and charge it. I absolutely love that feature. I rarely ever even plug my phones in anymore because it's just so convenient, and I have so many that I can just switch to one whenever another one is dead. So love that feature. Love it, love it, love it. Now, since we're looking at the back of the phone, we can see that we have a camera, and this phone definitely has a camera. It's a very good camera. Now, one thing that is a big upgrade from your Note 9 is you have the wide angle lens, finally. Now, Samsung sometimes calls the main lens a wide angle lens, and it's not. So here we've got your standard lens, we've got a telephoto lens for zooming in, and we've got a wide angle lens for opposite of zooming in. So the wide angle lens is extremely nice, and I love having that feature. I was actually wanting it the other day when I had my Note 9 and I didn't have this phone on me, and I wanted to take a picture, but I was back against a wall and I couldn't fit anything else into the shot. That's where the wide angle lens really comes in. When you have more that you can fit into the frame that otherwise wouldn't, that's a great feature, and that alone makes me almost want to upgrade to this. Again, I wouldn't be able to anyways because I'm working on my carrier, but it makes me want to buy another one of these for that purpose, because that is awesome. So you can double tap the power button, get right into the camera, and you have all of your modes right here on the bottom. You got video, photo, single take, and yeah, it's a pretty clean camera app. Samsung's camera apps used to just be loaded with junk. This works very well. You've got a bunch of different options here. You can actually record in a good amount of resolution. You can record up to, if you're in 16:9, up to 4K 60 FPS, which is really nice. So I love that feature. It is nice to do that, although the fact that there's a cap on it, at least I'm pretty sure there's a cap on the time you can do with it, which is the main reason why I don't use it. Oh, maybe there isn't. I could have sworn there was. Well, since there isn't, that's obviously really good. So you can record that, and that's been one of my biggest pet peeves about 4K on phone cameras, that they usually only let you do it for like 10 minutes at a time. This doesn't have that problem, at least it doesn't appear to. I should have tested that more. I'm so used to recording in 1080p 30, but if I find out that there is a limit on the 4K, I will add that in the description, but I don't think there is. But we have plenty of camera options, both for video and for photo. So a lot of that is really good. So if I go to rear video, we can change that. I'm actually going to change this back to full HD. And we can change it on the front video as well. So the front video also has up to 4K 60 frames per second, which is really nice as well. And you have pro video as well. I didn't test that because it usually uses up a lot of extra space, but you do have that option. Tracking autofocus, a lot of other really good stuff. So camera is still really good, and it's not a huge obscene bump like it is on the Note 20 Ultra, but you still have a very acceptable shooting mode. So if you're the kind of person where, you know, you think the Note 20 Ultra's camera lens is just ugly, which I think everybody is if we're being honest, yeah, the Note 10 Plus, at least when it's not covered in scuffs like this, the camera looks way better, as does the colorways, but we'll get to that in a sec. So we have a lot of options. Of course, we have the swipe modes, which have been on Samsung's cameras for a while. Again, another callback to the Note 7. This looks really good. As you can see, this Front-facing camera is really good. I've had no problems with it. It's not as good as this iPhone, but I wouldn't expect it to be because this iPhone is from 2020 and this Note is from 2019. So there is going to be a discrepancy there, but the camera on this is still really good. There's probably no reason why you should have any problems with this camera that I can think of. I probably should have actually demonstrated that wide-angle lens that I was gushing about so much. So if I can find the option. Oh, I think do I have to? Okay, photo. So, oh, that's because I'm in the front-facing camera. Okay, I was gonna say that's probably why. So we have our normal lens, we have the telephoto. So if we want to zoom in, look at that beautiful Note 9. Get a crispy picture of that. And if we want to get a wide-angle shot, look at that, and get our whole desk, put my hand in there. Boom, look at that, very nice. So the wide angle lens is just really cool, and that alone to me is a very big selling point for the Note 10 Plus. So I'm glad they finally added that. Honestly, they should have done that on the Note 9 because the telephoto camera to me is not that useful. It's still not that useful on the Note 10 in my opinion because the improvements to the main camera has made the telephoto lens mostly superfluous because you could just zoom in with the main camera on the same image and get equally good results. So yeah, but hey, it doesn't hurt to have it. So now you also have your flash, and on the Note 10 Plus specifically, you have these extra two little lenses which help with depth perception and focusing. So you don't have these two extra little lenses on the Note 10. On the standard Note 10, you only have the flash and these three main cameras. Now, of course, since I don't have a Note 10, I can't comment on the differences, but if you happen to have both of these, both the 10 and the 10 Plus, and you've shot a couple shots side by side, definitely drop in the comments if you notice any difference. I will eventually review the Note 10, but right now we're just focused on the Plus. So I'm not sure if the normal 10 would actually lose much quality from not having those two extra little bits, but it is something to note. No pun intended. So speaking of looks, we do have a lot of different colorways on this. This is the Aura Black with a lovely crack in the corner. That's actually my fault because this didn't have any cracks on it, and I was doing something in my living room, and I have a metal air exchange on the floor in my house, in my living room, right where this couch currently is. So I actually covered it up now because of this. And I fell with the phone in my hand. So I didn't drop the phone technically. The phone never left my hand, but I fell with it and it ended up striking right on this corner. And because the glass is actually curved over the bend and the actual metal frame is more towards the front, that meant there was more exposed glass on the back and it shattered. So yeah, you probably want to get a case for this if you have butterfingers. Now, if the phone was in my pocket, that wouldn't have happened, so that's kind of my fault. I never got a case for this because I planned on selling it, and it's been taking longer than I expected. I'm probably just going to end up giving it away because I found out that the IMEI is blacklisted, and apparently the thing's stolen. So I don't know what to do with this now. I don't even think I'm allowed to sell it, but whatever. So, because a friend of mine gave this to me, he got it from a very sketchy pawn shop, and I know that pawn shop is sketchy because I've dealt with the guy and he's an asshole. But that's beside the point. So definitely want to get a case or a skin. D-Brand still has skins for these, but D-Brand's been really slacking as of late because they deleted all their old skins, which really frustrates me because that was one of the things I loved about D-Brand is you could still get skins for legacy devices. They got rid of all that, so I can't get a skin for my Pixel 3. I can't buy another skin for my Note 5 because I don't have my original skin anymore. So that's really frustrating. But you can get a skin for this, and in my opinion, if you're going to get a skin for this, get the teardown. It looks so cool. I had the teardown on my Note 9 for the longest of time. In my opinion, that's a skin to get. You get a clear phone without losing the water seal, and you can just pull it off whenever you want, and it would cover up a crack like this. So now this phone to me is too large to want to put a case on, but one thing that is annoying is that, yes, while the side is kind of curved in and it feels very comfy in the hands when you're holding it in the middle of the phone, it feels nice and comfortable, the edges are just too square. I don't like how Samsung has been making the Notes squarier and squarier because this was perfect. Like, it was still square, it still had its own design language, but you still had nice, soft, rounded corners. And this has the same symmetrical design. Actually, it's more symmetrical than this, but the glass melts into the aluminum frame just like it does on this, but this feels a lot more comfortable because the edges aren't so sharp. They're actually rounded off. And of course, it's a smaller device, so it's more comfortable. So in my opinion, the Note 7 was the best ergonomic Note they ever made, and every Note's been a downgrade ever since, more and more. But the Note 9, in my opinion, does feel better than the Note 10 Plus, in terms of the fact that the edges are still a little bit rounded. You could tell as time goes on, they've been straightening and straightening the edges more and more, and now it's just a straight up square. So these sharp corners really dig into my hand, and if you get a case, it's going to be just as bad because they have to obviously design it around the phone. So I'm not a fan of that. I get why they did it to make the screen go all the way to the edges, but you know, it's kind of stupid. They obviously had no problems with curving off the edge of the screen on the Note 9 and the Note 8. So I don't know why they didn't just do that on this too and make the edges a little bit more rounded. So that's kind of frustrating because that ends up just making this not comfortable to hold. It is literally 1 o'clock in the morning and there are still cars going by. So, yeah. So, in my opinion, the ergonomics on the Note 10 Plus are not as good as they could be. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, and then, of course, there's performance. So, this particular phone has a good amount of RAM to it. The Note 9 had 6 gigs of RAM in the 128 gig model, and it had 8 gigs of RAM in the 512 gig model. The Note 10 Plus has 8 gigs of RAM across the board. So you have a lot of RAM, and this just works great. I've never had any issues with apps closing in the background. I've never been switching between two apps and had it not save my progress and, you know, dump me on the home screen or whatever. I've never had that problem. I've never had the phone crash on me either. My Note 9, my old one that was still on Android Oreo, had a lot of issues where the phone would crash. My Note 7 does it too, although my Note 7 doesn't really do it too much anymore. But just the older Galaxy phones with less RAM, I don't know if that's the reason why, but they happen to crash all the time. This one doesn't have that problem. It's never crashed on me. It's been incredibly stable. Never had any problems with it. It's buttery smooth, even on the standard One UI home screen, which normally I don't like the One UI home screen. I am using the gestures on this as well, which are a little funky to get used to, but they do work. And they look nice on a screen like this, although the S Pen sucks with them. So a lot of that stuff is good, and the performance on this is still really good. So if you're wondering, oh no, maybe I shouldn't buy a Note 10 Plus because it's old, so it's probably slow now. No. Do not think that. There are still budget phones that are the price that you can get one of these used. Even if you find one of these old stock new in box for $400, there are still $400 phones you can get that do not have the specifications of this phone in any stretch of the imagination, other than maybe a headphone jack or SD cards, or other than a headphone jack. So, you know, don't be worried about the hardware. The hardware is still good. If you buy this phone in 2022, you should have no problems getting 5 years out of the thing, for all I know. Realistically, this is the kind of phone where it not getting any more Android updates is going to hurt it long before the hardware hurts it, which, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that that's happened, because while Samsung did promise to increase their support cycles for a lot of these phones, it's been kind of up in the air whether or not the Note 10 Plus is on that list, because the Note 10 Plus has not been updated, and it was supposed to be on the list to get, you know, the 5 years worth of updates, or was it 3 years? I forgot what it was, but to get more updates than the normal 2 Android updates that Samsung phones are known to get. So that's a little up in the air, but other than that, even right now, the fact is that the Note 5 on Android Nougat is still usable in 2022. Every app that I use, other than Amazon Shopping, which for some reason is really really bullish on Android software. Every other app that I use day to day still work on Android Nougat, which the Note 5 supports. On my Note 7, which is Android Marshmallow, because obviously this is an exception. This would be more like Note 4 in terms of Android software. Some stuff is starting to not work. My bank app doesn't work, Reddit doesn't work unless I download an old version. It's kind of sketchy. But that's just now. Still, most things work on this. So if you do basic stuff, if you use Facebook, you text, you do phone calls, you use the web browser, you access Twitter and Instagram and you take pictures, you're going to be fine with this phone for 5 years. I guarantee it. You can buy this phone right now. If you keep using all those things, you're going to be fine for 5 more years. 5 more years. It will not be until 2025 or 6 that you shouldn't have any problems with this. And I mean, maybe if you get the LTE version and maybe they shut down the LTE networks by then, but I seriously doubt they're going to do it that soon, but we'll see. So yeah, this video has been going on for quite a while, but I hope I've covered every single detail about this phone, every possible thing you could want to know. And that's the goal of my videos, is I want this to feel like that we're having a conversation and that I can answer everything that you could possibly want to know about this phone. So there are quite a few things to know. Number one, this phone is still a great choice in 2022, and I highly recommend it if you want a phone with this design. Now, if you don't care about the wide-angle lens and you're not keen about having a specific phone with this design, then in my opinion, pick up a Note 9, because the Note 9 is a lot cheaper than this, and yet it has features that this doesn't have. So this, if you get the Note 9, you'll lose your wide-angle lens, but you will gain an iris scanner, a faster fingerprint sensor, an extra button, which is annoying to remap, but you can find a way to remap it. You get an iris scanner. You have an SD card slot, regardless of what model you have. You don't have the option for 5G, so that is something you'll lose, but you have a headphone jack, you have better speakers in my opinion, you have a better screen in my opinion, and yeah, I mean, so personally, I'm still using my Note 9. Even if this was, compatible with Mint Mobile, I still would use my Note 9 and just use this as a dedicated camera. But I don't know, maybe if I get the smaller Note 10, maybe the more comfortable size will sway me. So we'll see how that goes when I grab a Note 10. But as far as the Note 10 Plus, I think it's a great option. It's just not something that I don't think I will be buying one of these, but we will see. So right now, the Note 9 is still my daily driver. It is still the phone that is in my pocket, but the Note 10 Plus is still a great option. So if you want a modern feeling Note, if you want a big Note that has 5G and you want to save a good chunk of money, or if you have one of these laying around and you're wondering, hey, should I use this as a trade-in towards an S22 Ultra? If you're thinking about that, I'd say do it. Because if you do that, then last I checked, you're gonna get like $400 off. It changes like every 14 seconds, but as of the last time I checked, you can get like a few $100s off of your S22 Ultra, which would be more than what it would be like if you were trying to sell one of these on your own on Facebook or whatever. So if you have one of these and you're debating on selling it and getting something new, if you're wanting to buy a brand new shiny phone, then definitely trade this in, because it's not like a Note 9 where I'd just recommend keeping it because it's such a different experience that you could warrant having this as a backup because it feels different. This feels the same as all the new phones and vice versa. So, but that also makes it harder to justify upgrading from this. So if you still have one of these, you can hold on to it for certainly a little while longer. Don't be shamed into upgrading to a new phone just because everyone's telling you that you should upgrade, because that's not how the real world works. You don't need to upgrade your phone every 14 minutes. And honestly, if I still had my original Note 5, provided I put a new battery in it, I think I'd be happy with that. At least, it'd get the job done. So don't be fooled. You're not forced to upgrade. This phone is still a killer, especially given the deals that you can get in 2022. So the Note 10 Plus gets my recommendation, especially in that Aura Glow color, but again, we'll see how that is in real life. I'm going to get an Aura Glow Note 10, or a red one of the two, and we'll review that at some point as well. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you have any questions about my experience with the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, again, this is the 512 gig variant, so that's another thing to keep in mind, then definitely ask and drop that question in the comments below. And definitely subscribe to Intellitech Mobile and subscribe to Intellitech Studios as well. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review and found it helpful. And I will link a listing to this phone in the description, although keep in mind it's secondhand, so it's probably going to sell at some point. But I'll try to link to one of those links that have someone who has multiple devices. So if that link ever goes dead, then definitely let me know and I'll update the link accordingly. So anyways, this is Intellitech Mobile, and I'll see you guys in the next video, which will probably be the review on this iPhone 12, or perhaps this very unique and rare Note 7. My cat is meowing for some reason, so I think that's a sign that this video should be cut. Peace.